there are several signs that are about to happen. As you guys know, there was an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, a couple days ago or last night. I don't remember. Which is a brother, they say, to the eclipse that is going to happen on April the 8th, which is going to be during the Feast of Matzot in our calendar, of course, um, which is very important. And I think you guys already talked about it a little bit, but um, I wanted to mention it with a few other things. First, remember that in 2017, 7 years ago, there was a great sign in the heavens, which was the fulfillment or one of the fulfillments of the book of Revelation, chapter 12, when Virgo had the moon under her feet. The sun was in that constellation. She had a crown of 12 stars for Leo, which is right above her head, had a line with three other planets, which are uh, a different type of star. So there were 12 stars. For Leo has nine main stars plus those three. There were 12 around the head or above the head of Virgo. And she was pregnant with Jupiter. In fact, in September 23rd of 2017 is when Virgo gave birth to Jupiter, who had been, or which had been, for 9 months inside the constellation of Virgo, which is amazing. And it is said to have been a sign that has never happened in history and will never happen again. And if it happens, I guess we will already be in the kingdom. But it was a very important sign. Revelation 12 calls it a great sign, not just a sign. Um, and like I said, it was close to the day of Yom Teruah when Virgo gave birth, which is the time when eventually the witness like Moshe, which is represented by that child that is born in Revelation 12, um, will be captured and then killed in Yom Kippur. So it was an amazing sign. I repeat, 7 years ago. S- Still 7 years ago as well, on a different month though, there was an eclipse which went across the United States, as you guys may remember, and it went through seven places called Salem, which was the original name or one of the names that Jerusalem had back in the day, mainly when Abraham went to see Melchizedek. It is said that Melchizedek was the king of Shalem, right? Which eventually became Jerusalem. So Shalem means shalom, means peace. So I find interesting that the eclipse went across the United States through seven places called peace, perhaps announcing 7 years of peace, which would be aligned with the prophecy about the 7 years of the fat cows, right? Um, there would be 7 years of fat cows and then the sick, skinny cows that um, Pharaoh saw and that Joseph interpreted. So those last 7 years represent the last 7 years of history in this reality or the last week of Daniel. So now that we come to this year, we're about to go through another eclipse that will cross once again the United States, but in a different direction, making an X or a cross right above the USA, which some see as a sign that is going down as a country, as a world power. But also remember that the cross not only is the shape in which Mashiach um, was killed on a cross, but also it is the last letter of the Aleph Tav. The letter Tav is a cross in the pictographic and Paleo Hebrew. So a tav is forming over the United States, which could also be interpreted as the end is coming, or the sealing of the chosen few will happen. Um, but not only that, there was an eclipse last year, 2023, which also went over the United States. But when we added to these other two, it would make the shape of the letter Aleph, the first letter of the Aleph Taf, which in Paleo Hebrew and pictographic is the head of an ox. So it's interesting for many reasons. Um, One of them, it forms the Aleph. So now we have the Aleph and the Taf with the three eclipses that happened from 2017 till 2024. Like I said, in 2017, it went through 7 places called Shalom, peace. Now it's going to go through several places called Nineveh. There are several um, people saying that it will go through 8 places called Nineveh, others that it will go through 7 places called Nineveh. It seems like it's going to be total eclipse in 2 places called Nineveh, but it will go next to other places with that same name. And right before that place called Nineveh, it would go over a place called Yonah. And as we know, Yonah, the prophet, was sent to Nineveh. So if it goes through 7 places called Nineveh in a way, which is a place where Yonah was sent to announce punishment, the first eclipse would mean 7 years of peace, shalom. And now this one could mean 7 years of punishment, 7 years of plagues, which would be the last week of Daniel, if that is the will of the Father and that's what the sign is. So not only there were 7 years apart, these two eclipses that form a cross, a tav, the end. Also, there was an eclipse last year that forms a letter Aleph with those other two. So we have Aleph Tav, first and last, Yahweh manifesting as the first and the last. Also, we could say Yahweh manifesting as the ox, the descendant of Joseph, the Aleph, but being the last in the end times, therefore the letter Tav. It's also interesting that during that eclipse that is coming, not only will form the cross, will form the Aleph, will be 7 years apart from the previous one, will, it seems, announce the end of the United States as a power, as a world power. First, it went through Shalem, now it's going through Nineveh and Yonah. I'll just put down that as one, as a sign of Yonah, which Yahweh said that it would be the sign for the end of times, for the only sign that Yahweh would give to the wicked. And obviously, as we want to make clear, it mentions or it refers mainly to the fact of Mashiach and the witness like Moshe and Eliyahu dying and then resurrecting 3 days later. But it's interesting that this is happening this way. The eclipse going through Yonah, then several places called Nineveh, and it will happen right above the constellation of the sea monster, which makes reference to the creature, the great fish that ate Yonah. Then we have also that there will be an alignment of 7 planets. So 7 planets like the menorah plus the eclipse. But of those 7 planets, only 5 can be seen with the human eye. So those are the ones that mainly count when it comes to science and scriptures. So there will be 5 plus the sun and the moon. So that's 7 again. And that kind of connects with the story of when Mashiach multiplied the fish and the bread. 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, as in 5 planets, 2 luminaries, sun and the moon, which amazingly will be eclipsed in the constellation of Pisces. So 2 fish, the sun and the moon. Oh, come on. The sun and the moon with um in the constellation of Pisces, therefore as the 2 fish, and then the planets in that same line as the five loaves of bread. I'm not going to read that chapter because it's a lot, but there are several connections with timing because that multiplying of the bread happened on these month in which the eclipse will happen. So, other than that, there is a comet which might be able to be seen on the eclipse, a comet which they are calling devil because it seems like it has two horns, which a horn represents authority. When comets appear, normally they have announced throughout history that a leader will um, appear, either really powerful or really evil, um, or both. And in this case, there are two horns in the same comet, so it could represent the two beasts of Revelation 13, the beast of the earth and the beast of the sea. Two horns. The beast of the earth, it says, Revelation 13, that it has two horns like a lamb. But if we see it as a positive, then those two horns would represent the two witnesses. And remember that they will be seen as false messiahs, false prophets, or false messiah and the false prophets. So they will be seen as devils, as evil, wicked, because he comes like a thief in the night. So there's that comet. So a comet, an eclipse, and an alignment, same day on Matzot. I didn't mention that. I think on a feast, which is very important. Right there, those are 10 signs. And like I said, there is the three eclipses are making the shape of a aleph, which is the head of the ox. And on one of the ears of that ox, which would be the center of the cross in a way, the other cross I mentioned, it is on Texas. So the eclipses united or are connected above Texas, which is amazing because they are over the place where they found the red heifers in Texas that they would send to Israel. They had several red heifers. They ended up sending five to Israel. Of those five, only one still remains set apart in the sense that all the hairs that it has are red, so it can be sacrificed as the ritual of the red heifer. And the Muslims just came out, well, the group that attacked Israel in October 7 came out a few days ago saying that the attack, amongst other things, was because of the red heifers that they were bringing, because they see it as a threat. They know that if they sacrifice the red heifer, the next step would be to build a temple. And many believe that to do that, they would have to destroy the um, the Muslim place, Aqsa, right? The Dome of the Rock. So they see it as a threat. The red heifer is already in Israel, and for those who don't know, that is a ritual found in the Book of Numbers. Remember that Mashiach came to fulfill everything in the spiritual way and to give us understanding of everything. It is said that Shlomo knew all the commandments and what each represented, but he wasn't given understanding about the commandment of the red heifer. It is said that that is the only commandment that wasn't revealed to him. The red heifer represents, in a way, the sacrifice of Mashiach for the world, but also it represents the many who will have to go through death in these end times. Now, in Judaism, they believe that either everybody who is a Jew repents and starts fulfilling the commandments so that Messiah can appear and they can build a temple, or they would have to find a red heifer like this one that they found, which took pretty much 2,000 years because the last red heifer that they sacrificed was 2,000 years ago. And that was just the ninth red heifer in history. So in 4,000 years, only 9 red heifers were sacrificed since Yahweh gave that commandment. And 2,000 years ago, the ninth. Then we have a important rabbi in Judaism who said that when the 10th red heifer was sacrificed, then the messianic era would begin. Then Mashiach would manifest. According to what they are waiting for, in a way, they will accept the beast as that Messiah that they are expecting. But in the positive sense, if that was coming from the Father, that message, then it would refer to the last, the witness like Moshe, one of the two witnesses. So there were 10, then I added the 11 because they found the red heifers where the eclipse is going through. They sent the red heifer to Israel and they want to sacrifice it because, like I said, the second option that they see is that they will have to find the red heifer, which they did, sacrifice it to purify the whole uh, nation, and then they can continue or begin sacrifices in the temple. They already have the altar and they want to sacrifice the red heifer before their Pesach. Their Pesach, because of their calendar, will be about 2 weeks after ours. But I saw some news earlier about them saying that it is from now till their Pesach. They are hoping to sacrifice at any time. So we will see when they finally do it, because that could eventually bring war. Well, it already did, but it would make it worse, and therefore could bring the third um, world war, which we've been waiting for. Not that we want destruction or death or anything like that, but because that will be a clear sign that we are in the second seal. When that happens, I want to make that clear. And if they sacrifice the red heifer, that is a huge sign, and it would open the doors for sacrifices. And remember that there is the um, the sacrifice that they will do according to the book of Daniel, and the numbers that Daniel gives. They would have to start that sacrifice 250 days after everything began. And if everything begins on Matzot, as it all appears, because of many things we've spoken about here, then that sacrifice would start. A morning and afternoon sacrifice would begin on Hanukkah, and it could very well be if they do sacrifice the red heifer when they are trying to do so. So there are a lot of signs. I hope I am not forgetting anything, but I wanted to say all of that because this verse is one that is coming to mind a lot nowadays. Because if the Jewish people sacrifice the red heifer, a lot of nations will go against Israel because of what they will try to do right afterwards, which would be taking out, um, well, destroying the mosque in order to build a temple. That's what many expect would happen, and also because they want every Muslim out of those borders. So you know what that will cause um, in the world. In that sense, a lot of nations will help the Muslims against Jerusalem. So you see how it says, "And I shall gather all nations to battle against Jerusalem." Now that's why I mentioned everything, but want to also make clear that what I mentioned regarding all those signs point to the possibility of the last week of Daniel starting. Now, this verse actually refers to the war of Armageddon. So actually it would be 7 years after that. Just want to make that clear. If everything starts right now, then this verse would manifest 7 years after. It would build up until that moment. Um, the tensions and all of that. So I just want to make that clear.